In the quaint village of Oakridge, nestled among rolling hills and meandering streams, lived a young baker named Alexander Alex Carter. Though Oakridge was small, its community was tight-knit, and every villager knew one another by name. Alex's bakery, a modest wooden storefront on the village square, had quickly become a cherished institution, a beacon of warmth and hope in a world that often seemed indifferent. Alex had not always enjoyed an easy life. Orphaned at a tender age when a sudden illness claimed his parents, he was left to care for his two younger siblings, Lily and Sam. With little more than determination and an unyielding spirit, Alex learned the art of baking from an elderly neighbor who had once been a master artisan. Every morning before dawn, Alex would rise with the birds, his heart filled with a fierce desire to make a better life for his family. As the first rays of sunlight bathed Oakridge in a gentle glow, he would light the wood-fired oven, knead dough with practiced hands, and infuse each batch of bread with hope and resilience. Alex's baked goods were more than just food. They were tokens of care. His crusty loaves, delicate pastries, and hearty pies became synonymous with nourishment, not only of the body, but also of the spirit. Villagers would often pause in their busy routines to greet him with smiles and kind words. "Good morning, Alex. Your bread makes the day so much brighter," they'd say, their voices echoing through the cobblestone streets. Yet, as word of Alex's success spread, not everyone in Oakridge welcomed his rising popularity. Two rival bakers, Mr. Harrington and Mrs. Fletcher, who had long dominated the local market with their traditional methods and staid recipes, found themselves increasingly overshadowed by Alex's innovative approach and genuine warmth. Their resentment grew as they watched customers flock to the bakery that not only offered the finest baked goods, but also radiated an inviting spirit that they themselves could not muster. One chilly autumn morning, as golden leaves danced around the village square, Alex set about his daily routine. While preparing his signature sourdough, he noticed a frail figure shuffling along the roadside, a man in a tattered coat with eyes that told stories of long-lost dreams. It was Mr. Thompson, a once-renowned woodcarver who had spent his youth creating masterpieces, only to be cast aside by time and misfortune. Instead of turning him away, Alex beckoned him inside. "Come in, sir," Alex said kindly, offering a seat near the warm glow of the oven. "Have a slice of fresh bread on the house." Mr. Thompson hesitated at first, and used to such generosity, but the sincerity in Alex's eyes melted his reserve. With a grateful nod, he accepted the warm, crusty slice, savoring not only the rich flavor, but also the kindness that accompanied it. Over time, Mr. Thompson became a regular visitor, sharing his wisdom and enchanting tales of a bygone era with anyone who would listen. His stories of craftsmanship, perseverance, and the simple joys of life enriched Alex's own understanding of what it meant to be a part of a community. Despite the growing bond between Alex and his new friend, dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. Mr. Harrington and Mrs. Fletcher, driven by envy and fear of losing their hold on the village's favor, began to conspire against Alex. Their plan was subtle at first. A few whispered rumors about the quality of Alex's ingredients, a discreet sabotage of his ovens during the quiet hours of early dawn, and small acts intended to mar his reputation. They even went as far as tampering with his delivery of flour and yeast, hoping that misfortune would cast out over his honest work. One stormy night, when the wind howled like a chorus of forlorn spirits and rain battered the rooftops of Oakridge, Alex stayed late in his bakery to prepare a special order for the annual Harvest Festival. The festival was a time when the entire community gathered to celebrate the bounty of the season, and Alex had promised to supply a grand assortment of treats that would be the highlight of the evening. Lost in his work and oblivious to the tempest outside, Alex barely noticed the creak of the door as it swung open. It wasn't until a shadow flitted across the far wall that his heart skipped a beat. Rushing to the counter, he saw Mr. Harrington and Mrs. Fletcher stealthily making their way in. Before they could enact their sabotage, a firm yet gentle voice broke the tension. "Stop right there." Mr. Thompson, having followed his instincts and sensing something amiss, strode into the bakery. His presence, though frail in appearance, carried the weight of decades filled with courage and wisdom. "There is no honor in deceit," he declared, his eyes blazing with a determination that belied his age. Caught off guard by the intervention, Mr. Harrington and Mrs. Fletcher froze. Their malicious intent evaporated into the stormy night as they exchanged fearful glances before hastily retreating, leaving behind a trail of scattered flour and broken promises. The next morning, as the storm subsided into a gentle drizzle, the villagers gathered around Alex's bakery. News of the attempted sabotage had spread, and instead of casting blame on Alex, they rallied around him with overwhelming support. "Your kindness is the strength of Oakridge," declared the village elder, his voice resonant with pride. "We will not allow envy to cast a shadow over our home." In a heartfelt ceremony held in the town square, the local council honored Alex with a certificate of valor for his contributions to the community. His act of compassion in welcoming Mr. Thompson and his unwavering dedication to his craft had rekindled a sense of unity among the villagers. Even those who had once harbored doubts about him now spoke with admiration for the young baker who had transformed their lives with his gentle spirit. Emboldened by this support, Alex expanded his bakery. He transformed the small storefront into a warm haven with a large communal table where people could gather to share stories, laughter, and, of course, freshly baked bread. He began hiring local youths, many of whom were eager to learn not only the art of baking, but also the values of kindness and community service. Alex believed that the secret ingredient in every recipe was compassion, a belief that resonated with everyone who crossed his threshold. As months turned into years, the reputation of Alex's bakery grew far beyond the boundaries of Oakridge. Travelers from distant towns came to taste his legendary sourdough and to experience the genuine warmth that seemed to envelop the place. Alex's siblings, Lily and Sam, flourished under his guidance. Lily, with her keen eye for design, started crafting beautiful decorations for the bakery, while Sam, ever curious and eager, learned the finer points of baking and eventually became a skilled apprentice. Meanwhile, Mr. Thompson continued to be a steadfast companion and advisor. His stories, filled with lessons about resilience, the beauty of art, and the power of community, were cherished by everyone. At times, he would even sit with a cup of herbal tea in the corner of the bakery, his eyes twinkling as he recounted adventures of his youth. "Remember," he would say softly, "no storm can dampen the light of kind heart." Not all in Oakridge had forgotten the bitterness of envy. However, Mr. Harrington and Mrs. Fletcher, their reputations marred by their underhanded deeds, found their businesses dwindling. Without the trust of the community, they struggled to regain the success they once took for granted. Over time, some even came to see that their attempts to undermine Alex had only isolated them, leaving them to rue their choices in solitude. Yet, even in their decline, the bitter rivals were given a chance at redemption. During a particularly harsh winter, when a bout of flu swept through Oakridge, Alex's bakery became a refuge for the sick and the needy. With ovens burning day and night, he produced loaves of warm bread and hearty pies, free of charge, for anyone who needed sustenance. Even Mr. Harrington and Mrs. Fletcher, too weak to even muster the energy to grumble, were touched by the community's compassion. Their pride softened, and in quiet moments of reflection, they began to question the choices that had led them down a path of resentment. As spring blossomed over Oakridge, the village emerged stronger and more united than ever. A grand festival was held to celebrate not just the season's bounty, but the enduring spirit of community. At the heart of the celebration was Alex's bakery, adorned with garlands and bright banners. Villagers gathered around to share their favorite stories of kindness and mutual support, and Alex, standing on a small stage with Mr. Thompson by his side, spoke of the simple truth that had guided him through life. "Every loaf of bread that comes out of our oven is a promise," Alex said, his voice steady and full of emotion. "It is a promise that, no matter how dark the night, warmth and kindness will always light our way. We are not defined by the hardships we face, but by how we overcome them, with love, compassion, and unity." His words resonated deeply with everyone present, stirring hearts and inspiring many to commit themselves to acts of kindness in their own lives. In the months that followed, Oakridge experienced a transformation that went far beyond economic prosperity. Neighbors began to help one another more freely, sharing resources and lending a hand whenever needed. The lessons learned from Alex's example spread like wildfire, rekindling a sense of hope that had been dimmed by past grievances. Mr. Harrington and Mrs. Fletcher, now humbled by their own experiences, sought forgiveness from the community. In time, they too began to adopt a more generous spirit, slowly rebuilding trust through small, sincere acts of restitution. Alex's bakery continued to flourish as a center of creativity and compassion. He introduced baking classes for children and adults alike, teaching them not only the techniques of his craft, but also the values that had defined his journey. "Baking is an art," he would say with a gentle smile, "but it is also a language of care that we all speak if we listen closely enough." Years later, when Alex looked back on the tumultuous path that had brought him to where he was, he realized that every hardship had been a stepping stone toward a greater purpose. His loss had taught him the importance of family, and his struggles had revealed the transformative power of kindness. In a world often divided by differences, he had found unity in the simple act of sharing a warm loaf of bread. The legacy of the compassionate baker of Oakridge became a timeless tale, passed down through generations. It served as a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness could spark profound changes in the world, igniting hope in the hearts of many. Alex's story, much like the gentle crackle of his oven on a cold morning, was a testament to the enduring truth that a generous heart can overcome any adversity. And so, in the soft glow of every sunrise over Oakridge, as villagers gathered to share their daily bread, the spirit of compassion lived on, a light that would never be extinguished, a flame kindled by the warmth of one man's unwavering kindness.